Welcome to my show. A guest here. Her name is Gloria Vanderhorst. Mrs. Gloria, how are you doing, ma?
I'm doing great today. I'm really looking forward to a lively conversation and hopefully being helpful to your listeners.
And also, thank you so much for the time and the opportunity. Firstly, you are an author. You are also a physiologist. Can you please, Mrs. Gloria, discuss more about yourself and how you are doing currently now, Mrs. Gloria?
I've been a psychologist in private practice for over 30 years. And in the last few years, I have been writing. And I've been writing in a couple of different ways. I publish a blog that goes out twice a week. And I have written two journal books to help people do their own deep dive into their histories and into their psyche. And I've done this writing because I really want to impact more people than I can in my private practice. In private practice, you see someone one at a time, and you have a limited amount of time, all right, because you're human. So the writing is a way to reach way beyond what I can do in one on one therapy sessions and give everyone who's willing an opportunity to take a deeper dive into their own histories, into their own emotional experiences, and have their own healing journey just unfold in front of them. So I'm excited about the writing work, and I'm happy to be here to talk to your audience about the importance of their histories and how history can jump into the present and surprise you or undermine you.
Exactly. Our past is great, but how can we actually even observe that this our past can be something that can transcend, change, and actually produce the same results in our time, even in the future as well? And that impact is something that is very much important for us to understand better and also gain some insight in those areas as well. And that is why I would like to drive to your book, Mrs. Gloria. Read, reflect, respond. The theory out of growth and change. Can you please, Mrs. Gloria, discuss more on the book? And do you also plan to write more books in the coming future, Mrs. Gloria?
That's a great question. I'm happy to describe this book. This is a book for anyone who's curious about why they do things in a particular way. We have history, and our brains hold on to pieces of history. They don't hold on to everything, right? But they do hold on to pieces of history from very early childhood, definitely from infancy. And some of the research shows us that we actually have memories from inside the womb as well. So think of that, right? That's fascinating. When you are in the womb and last trimester, right, your brain is working, right? And you're hearing people that are talking to you through mom's belly. You're experiencing being jostled around. You are obviously building memories, but we never think about, oh, all right, that little thing inside of mom must be recording things in the brain as well. And as soon as you're born, that brain just goes wild with recording everything that's happening because an infant has no other way of surviving other than paying attention and recording what's happening around them and responding to what's happening around them. So this my journal books, the first one is Read, Reflect, Respond, the 3 R's of growth and change. And it is designed to help you dig into your memories and notice that early experiences do jump into the present. And I'll give you a really good example from one of my clients. So I worked with a woman who had a fear of interacting with certain people, not everybody, but just certain people that were of a certain height, a certain weight, and it was like odd for her, right? Why would I have this? I don't even know this person, but I see them as I'm going to class or walking on the street or shopping in the mall, and suddenly I get anxious. I get really nervous, and I want to move in the other direction. So when we take a deeper dive into what is that history, we find in her history a very specific traumatic experience that she had with an uncle who had, that same shape, that same size, that same posture, and it got recorded in her brain as danger. Right? This shape, this size means danger. And so she was reacting to total strangers as though they were seriously dangerous for her. So, and we all have these pieces of history where something we experienced in early childhood is jumping into the present and influencing how we're responding in the present. And so the book gives you an opportunity to take a deep dive into your history and find these things so that you can now have a choice. Do I continue to react to men of this shape and size as though they're terrifying? Or do I unlock that history and give myself freedom? So the Read, Reflect, Respond is the first journal book. The second one is called Return, Revisit, Renew, so that when you finish the first one, you can go on to the next one. And then I'm in the process of also doing a third one. So I want people to grow. I want people to challenge themselves to really find the parts of history that are jumping into the present and are not doing them a good service.
Absolutely. I think you actually brought out the light of our brain, how our brain has been processed. It shows that, as you explained, it shows that our brain can actually record every single moment from the beginning,
It, it's
and it doesn't
amazing.
get, and to be honest, it doesn't get filled up. When we have a memory card, we know it gets filled up. It does not get filled up. It just continues to add it on and on and on, and bringing us back to our history. And it is so much beautiful that those pieces in our history also comes back to that brain. I think it's also part of the knowledge and also the brain as well. Now, being in the position to unlock it with the several steps to unlock it is absolutely unimaginable, to be honest, because we
Oh,
can actually
it's
do
wonderful.
a lot of things with those things that we can actually discover from this our historic time, from our brain, and what we've actually seen and the brain has recorded as well. And I would just like to dive to your book, which is also built around three steps of reading, reflecting, and responding. Why do you think reflection alone often not enough? And how does intentional response turn insight into meaningful change, Mrs. Gloria?
So the reflection is the second step, right? So when you read something, it makes connections with other experiences that you have had. It just naturally does that. So your brain starts that process of reflection. You don't have to cue it to do that. It just naturally does that. It also does that while you sleep, which is very interesting. We could talk more about that, but consciously, it's doing that automatically. And so the book is organized with an essay on one page, and the facing page is blank. Now, most journal books have lines for you to write responses. This does not, because I want you to take a deeper dive into your history. And we don't store everything in terms of language, right? We have other ways of storing information. We store information in terms of pictures, and we store information in terms of actions. So the blank page, you can write, all right? I'm not taking language away from you. You can write on that blank page, but you can also scribble, you can also draw, you can use action. I tell people you can tear the page if you want. You'll have to tape it back together to read the essay on the other side. But the object is to give your brain the freedom to respond in a way that gives you insight into your earlier history. Because so much of who we are and how we relate to those around us is shaped in that very early history, within the first year of our life. There's a ton of experiences interacting with people, interacting with the environment that get solidified in the brain as kind of a rule, right? So if mother has postpartum depression and really cannot do a good job of attending to you, you have negative experiences of interaction. And that leads you to have a real sense of caution, even fear about interacting with other people. So that, as you mature and you experience yourself as shy or withdrawn, you don't immediately connect that with your infant history, but that's where it starts. So, uncovering the start point of many of the characteristics that you're using in interacting with the world around you gives you choice. It gives you freedom, right? Do I have to continue to be this shy, fearful person, or are there other parts of me, right, that want to interact and have fun and develop deep conversations with people, or just be silly, right? Now I have choice, and before I didn't have choice. So that's the value of doing one of these journal books. It unlocks the pieces of history that are controlling you.
Exactly. And as you said earlier, those things are being recorded naturally. It's not something we're actually
Mm-hmm.
forced to do. It
Right.
happens naturally. And for us to
Mm-hmm.
actually get that our first year stage and actually use it as a source for us to discover ourselves takes a lot of stuff. And I do appreciate you for actually bringing out the light in that area, Mrs. Gloria. Mrs.
Thank you.
Gloria, I would
I
just like
enjoy doing it too.
exactly. Mrs. Gloria, I would also like to dive to many people who understand their unhealthy patterns intellectually, but continue repeating them. What do you think helps a person move from knowing why they behave a certain way to choosing a healthier response? Mrs. Gloria.
That's a great question because you are right on target, right? We could describe, right? I am shy, all right? People will announce, I'm shy or I'm bold or I'm gregarious, right? And then they will not take that step to discover the root of that. Where did it come from? Why do I behave this way? And unless you discover the root, you don't have a choice. So the gregarious person who's kind of always out there in interaction with other people really cannot see that sometimes that's really inappropriate, right? It doesn't fit the setting, right? That you're walking in jolly, and glad handing everybody and needing to talk to everybody and wanting to know what's happening in their lives, it's like you're blind to the social reaction that you're getting. Same thing is true with the shy person. Why would I want to be shy in absolutely every situation? Right? I have the opportunity to have a nice cup of tea with a friend one on one. Why would I be shy and withdrawn in that context? It just makes no sense. But because of that early history, I have no choice unless I understand the early history. And when I understand it, I have choice, then I can grow and I can be more real, right? I can be more real when I understand myself. We all need to be able to make choices.
Exactly. It goes back to understanding ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It goes back to understanding that history, understanding that roots, understanding ourselves. Then when we
Right.
gather those information, then we can actually know the main reason why we actually have some certain characters, why we have some
Mm-hmm.
attributes. Sometimes some people make some reaction or some characters that they don't even know where it comes from. It just comes naturally. And they ask
Right.
themselves, I don't know where this character comes from.
Right. Yeah. I don't
Honestly,
know why I did that.
exactly. So all those things are from the historic background, and we have to try our best to fetch it out. If we do not
Mm-hmm.
fetch it out, we won't know how to get it resolved and know how we can manage it. And I do appreciate you for the great insight. I would just like to listeners who are seeking emotional healing. They are seeking stronger relationship or a
Mm-hmm.
more intentional life.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, or what simple read, reflect, respond practice can they begin using to better understand themselves and take their next step forward, Mrs. Gloria?
It is challenging yourself, right? First, recognizing I need this, right? There are certain behaviors that I engage in, certain ways that I feel about myself that create discomfort for me. So it is first being able to recognize the discomfort that you live with, that you carry around, and then giving yourself permission to be curious about it. After I recognize it, I have to start asking questions. I have to be curious about why do I do that? Where does that come from? Do I really need to keep doing that and interacting in that way? What's the payoff? What's the downside of interacting that way? And the beauty of the Read, Reflect, Respond book is that you can go through these essays in any way you want. This isn't to start at the beginning and go to the end. All right? This is wake up on Monday morning, right? Take a look at the different topics that are in the book. Pick the one that is talking to you on Monday morning. Do that one, right? And you will discover by the end of the year you've done them all and you're ready for the next book, but there's no rigidity to it. You have freedom, and that freedom to explore yourself in the way that you show up in the morning is really incredibly valuable.
More like a to-do list, and that is very much important. Everything that we do and we want to also build is very much important for us to actually take some kind of things, analyze some kind of things. We can wake up in the morning and read something that can actually help
Mm-hmm.
us grow and
Mm-hmm.
discover ourselves better. And also, Mrs. Gloria, there is a question I normally ask during the end of the show. From our forefathers, from our ancestors, there are a lot of beautiful things that do exist during our forefathers' time that is
Mm-hmm.
missing in our time today. If
Mm-hmm.
there is anyone or anything you would like to bring back to our time today, what do you think that thing will be, Mrs. Gloria?
Well, it is true. right? That our forefathers are vital to us in the present. Science has actually demonstrated that we carry genetic information from at least the last 3 generations. So think about that, all right? Your genes carry information, genetic detail from the last 3 generations. It's just mind blowing, all right? And so being able to honor your history is incredibly valuable. Being curious about your history, because if we carry that genetic information, it is true that our past from ancestry can jump into the present. So the more that we know about our history and trace our families and understand what they experienced, the more that we will know about ourselves. We are connected. We were born connected to another person, and we are connected to our genetic history and to the people that came before us. So it is worth taking that deeper dive into understanding the generations in the past and how that can jump into the present.
Exactly, because our past, our present, and also our tomorrow is very important. And we can be in the position whereby we can jump through that past, reflect on our present, and see how our tomorrow be. It's very much
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. It's one of the
Right.
greatest souls that a lot of people do lack in our time. And if that can be granted to them, it's absolutely beautiful. And I want to use this opportunity to thank you for the time and the opportunity for us to have this profound and insightful conversation today. Thank you so much, Mrs. Gloria.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it.
All right, Mrs. Gloria. Have a wonderful day, Mrs. Gloria. Bye bye.
Bye bye.